This episode is brought to you by May Precision Ag in Kiowa, Kansas. Be sure to contact Jerry.may for all your Pioneer seed, custom farming, and grid soil sampling needs. We appreciate everybody that has reached out since our last podcast. It's been a month or so since we've done one, but I do appreciate everybody that's reached out through social media messages, text messages, phone calls. Just giving all the support that you've given to this show. This is the South Barber Spotlight, and we're firing back up for 2026. Our first guest is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Mylo Miller. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, a lot of windshield time today with traveling for rec basketball and everything going on. So,
well, how did it go? Let's start there.
Yeah, it went well. It's about coaching first and second grade girls. My daughter Remy, her basketball team, and it's been a lot of fun. We've experienced different venues and different rules. It seems like each week. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
My memories of that age group of rec basketball, the rules of the sport and the officiating changes drastically, sometimes within the day.
Yeah.
Let alone location.
Yeah. I don't think we had a single whistle blown in the first two games. Like there was no fouls. There was traveling, there was running with a basketball, but they're learning and let them get used to just being on the court. So,
sometimes at that age, if you can just get out of there without any tears, it's a success.
Yeah, that didn't happen today. That did not happen today. I had quite a few tears. Half my team was crying on the bench at one point or another. So I think it was a long night last night with homecoming, and so we played at 9:00 in Conway Springs, which, by the way, I did not know much about Conway Springs, and shame on me, but quite a football powerhouse in and of themselves.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to lose a bet annually to a guy from Conway Springs because we would have a bet. I would bet on the South Barber football team, and he would bet on the Conway Springs football team, and whoever made it the farthest won the bet.
Mm-hmm.
And although South Barber might go to the semifinals, or sub-state, occasionally went to the state championship game. Conway Springs strung together several years, and so I was paying up quite a bit.
I did
probably not the smartest bet I've ever had.
I did a little Google search because I was like, trying to figure out a little bit about the town, and I saw that they had won quite a few state championships. So,
and I don't know, I didn't watch any of their games this year. A few years ago, I watched them on YouTube. They played Medicine Lodge to go to the state championship game, and they were still kind of running the old school single wing, which is what they did back in the day. And you never knew who had the ball, and they ran it very, very effectively. And they've went through multiple coaches through the years. It's kept that going, which is kind of impressive.
That's very impressive.
I remember watching them in a state championship game. It was against Silver Lake, I believe, up at Emporia back in the early 2000s. And it was like watching high school football. I mean, not that I was around in the 60s, but old school. They'd come out of the huddle and they'd all, like in a line, do a little circle and then string down the line. It was like, what's this? And then they just line up and run it right at you and get you.
If it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah. And they had, that's a community that has seemed to have had a family or two that they never run out of kids.
No.
The Paulies up there.
Yeah.
Some of them boys went on and played D1 football out of that little town. And the last kid, he was a move-in. They were a family from Wichita. His dad was a coach in Wichita, and they moved in there, and he single-handedly won the last state championship for him. I mean, he was a bona fide stud.
Okay.
And he went to, I want to say, Northwest Missouri State but he was also a state champion calf roper in rodeo. He was just
Oh,
as tough in rodeo as he
yeah.
was football. And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if he's still at Northwest Missouri State or not, but
Mm.
that was Kuhn was his last name. And yeah, they've had some pretty good teams through the years.
Yeah. Well, it was a, pretty little town, and, and like I said, being close by, I kind of thought, the, aren't they in our league? And then I started researching. I was like, well, I don't know.
They, they're in the early 2000s. You wouldn't have been around then, but between them and Smith Center, Kansas, and that Class 1A or 2A,
yeah,
nobody could beat them teams. Smith Center, we was visit. I can't remember who I was visiting with this week about Smith Center, and they had a book written about them.
Oh yeah.
Our boys, I think our boys are our town. I got the book at the house. A guy came out and wrote a book, followed them through the season, and
that's pretty cool.
Same thing. They were an option football team, and that turned out some serious studs out of those small schools.
That's awesome.
Which we don't have nothing to sneeze about here either. We've had a pretty good football program for a long time as well.
Yes, sustainable success. Yeah.
Well, I know who you are. Some of the people that's going to be watching this knows who you are, but you're not a native to Kiowa. But you got here. Did you get here in 17?
2018. Yeah.
18.
Yeah. Okay. 2018. Strangely enough, from Velma, Oklahoma, Velma, Alma.
Well, now I'm going to stop you because I told this to Brian Quick.
Yeah.
You two are probably the two most polished people I've ever known to come out of that area.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Well, you live in the shadow of Brian Quick. I think he reminds frequently that their basketball team in the 80s was the last to win a state championship in basketball. And although many have tried, we've all fallen short of that standard.
Well, we should remind Brian that basketball is not what I think of when I think of Velma. I think of them as a football town.
Yeah.
Because they put together a pretty good run when I was younger.
Yeah, they used to hold the state record in the early 90s, with the most consecutive wins. And, and then I think Ada, Oklahoma ended up taking that over at some point.
So grew up at Velma, born and raised there?
Yeah. Was in Texas for kindergarten, Channing, Texas, just not too far away from Amarillo. And then my dad works in the oil field. And so he got relocated to Velma, Alma, the Hilton oil fields. World War I made Tulsa the oil capital of the world. Oil fields, supplied the Allies with all the oil they needed to fight the war. And now there's just kind of a remnant of those days left. Still enough oil to sustain some livelihood, but yeah, we lived there. First grade, all the way through high school graduation, and it's oil and gas. Duncan's not far away. Halliburton is kind of the major employer in that area, and there was a time when Vice President Dick Cheney would show up in Duncan, Oklahoma. So.
Now, did you ever go to the Velma picnic? Was that still a thing?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it's always a big event. A lot of rodeo and a lot of fair, type atmosphere, and it was a lot of fun.
So, was you a football player or just a runner?
Well, I played football for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I kind of got into running, and mainly running and basketball. And then eventually track and field and cross country kind of dominated most of my time. If I was going to go to college, I was going to have to earn my way. I say this frequently, we grew up poor. I didn't know it, I did my thing. But my dad had, he was a worked hard his entire life. And he just told me pretty much, you're either going to work hard with your body or you're going to, work hard with your mind. And so that's kind of your choice. And so it turns out though, track and field was kind of my vehicle to, I was working hard with my body, but got a track and field scholarship to Oklahoma Baptist University. And was running all year round because we did cross country, and then I was indoor and outdoor track, so it was just constant running, and paid for my school. And it was a bit of a culture shock when I got there in terms of academics, because I was really just kind of there to run initially and get deep enough in. It's like, oh, I see light at the end of the tunnel to graduate. So
Now, did you guys have cross country in high school at Velma?
yeah.
Okay.
It started Coach Jerry Lovall, and he's a fantastic individual, fantastic teacher, science teacher in middle school for me. And he started the cross country program. He's actually who got me into running, being kind of a, dumb teenage, junior high boy. He approached me in the cafeteria and said, "Hey, you want to run cross country?" And man, coach, that I don't think I can run across the country, And he's like, "No, you don't run across the country. Come on now, I had no idea what it was, but you know, he's a good guy. Jerry Lovall is kind of a legend because he started the cross country program at Velma, and then the girls end up winning 3 or 4 state titles in cross country in a row, and so it started building, my time there in the '90s.
So when did you graduate?
1999.
So was Raymond Rice a
Yeah, right.
principal or
Well,
just a teacher then?
no, I think Raymond Rice was maybe a year uh, beneath me in school or a year ahead. I can't remember. He did go back and he became principal, and is he superintendent now, I think, at Velma?
He's something.
Yeah.
He was an ag teacher. He's older than I am.
Is he?
Yeah, he had to be a teacher when he was there.
Okay.
He was the ag teacher
That's
when I was in high school. I graduated in
yeah.
92,
Okay.
and he was an ag teacher then.
Yeah.
His dad was one of my college instructors at Eastern Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Ray Rice, not to be confused with Raymond.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know how that goes.
Great guy, though. I mean,
Yeah,
he's always had great reputation, solid individual,
a very competitive individual.
Yeah.
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 So went to OBU, ran cross country, track, all of that. Assuming you've got a PhD, so you probably graduated there.
Yeah. So, I met Heather at OBU my last year, and then we got married after, right after college, and we both got jobs in the Midwest City Middale School District teaching. And so I was teaching 7th through 9th grade at Monroney Junior High School, and they're T-Birds. They have the big AWACS airplanes. I think that's right. They have this big disc on top that's constantly flying. The principal that hired me at the time asked me if he said, you willing to coach? I said, absolutely. Whatever you need, And he said, well, what about football? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I'll coach football, but just a little caveat here. I didn't play a lot, and it's more of a runner. And he's like, oh, you're an athlete. You can do this. And so we'd be out in the football field with the kids, and those planes would come in so low to Tinker Air Force Base, you'd have to pause practice because they couldn't hear you. That's how loud the jets flying over were. And so, yeah, I was there. And then I got into a Master's of Education program through East Central University, but they did like a Zoom in classes to the VOTEC over in Shawnee by OBU.
Okay.
And did that. Still, they moved me up to Midwest City High School, and then I was teaching 9th through 12th grade and coaching track and field and cross country. And somewhere in the middle of teaching there, I got into the doctoral program at the University of Oklahoma, and ended up completing that. And so, yeah.
So was OU always a destination? or it was just the next step in the ladder?
Yeah, I don't know that there. I'd like to say I had a well thought out plan. It seemed like just no. When I was at OBU in undergrad, there was always a desire to run for the University of Oklahoma. But there's a reality that sets in when you start competing in college. And I left Velma with a pretty big head. I thought I thought I was going to be a D1 runner. I think I won state 11 times in high school. Between cross country and track. And I got to OBU, and NAIA, sometimes you can kind of turn your nose down to. And I thought I'll be here a year or two. And that wasn't the case. I was getting owned. I mean, I got humbled real quick, I lining up at national meet and against Kenyans, and there wasn't an eligibility rule on age, and so some of these guys would be, in their upper 20s and had kids. And, I'd right out of high school, and, I anchored a DMR where a Kenyan, I knew who he was, and I knew he could run like a 403 mile. And, I had run 410 was my best, but they couldn't give me enough room. He ran me down, and, it wasn't pretty.
Oh, so you ran the mile. Was you a 2-miler also?
Well, in high school, in high school, the 2 mile was probably my favorite event per se, I guess, but really in college was more of a middle distance runner. The 1,000 meters indoors end up kind of becoming a perfect distance for me. So I could run a decent half, I'm at, 152, 153, but holding on for another 200 or whatever was probably about the max. Um, yeah,
Are you saying 152, 153, and 1,000?
no, in the 800.
Okay,
That was my end. Yeah, no, I wish.
I was going to say,
1,000.
holy
Yeah,
smokes!
yeah, I wish. So no, just holding on for another 200 after, and we wouldn't come through quite that fast. But if you come through a 156 or 155 at the half, and then you've got another 200, you've got.
Now at like the indoors and the college track meets you went to, was that just everybody in the pool, or was that primarily running against NAIA competition?
It was NAIA. You had to hit provisional standards in order to qualify for nationals. And, I do remember a funny story. It's funny to me anyways, but we were I was a freshman, had another freshman. We were trying to get our 4x8 qualified for nationals, and it was getting toward the end of the season. We were right there on the cusp of it. And, first time ever in my life, I was taking the baton. He was handing off. Well, we dropped the baton, and Coach Maston, Ford Maston, another legend at Oklahoma Baptist University, was the head coach. Doesn't get angry very often, and it's a Baptist university, so they keep things pretty clean. But that's about as angry and fired up and throwing things that I've ever seen. And talk about getting chewed out as a freshman, dropping the baton. So we had to squeeze in one more meet. They loaded us up, and they let us go. Coach didn't even go, but they got us a university car, and he said, "You're headed to Nebraska." I don't even remember where we went. It's a super long drive, right late at night. Get there and run the next day, and we had to qualify for the 4x8. And we did eventually, but probably used more resources than he was wanting.
As before NILs and stuff too, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that's way before. I don't even know what's happening now in college.
So you got your PhD at OU. Now, did you teach any at OU or just get your doctorate?
Well, I've taught online class at the University of Oklahoma for teachers, aspiring principals. They're wanting to be a principal. So I've taught some online classes, and but I graduated from OU's doctoral program, and then went into administration at Harding Charter Preparatory High School downtown Oklahoma City. We were real close to the Capitol downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was you there 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. Yes. 7 years. Yeah. I
Then
remember.
made the move up here.
Yes, we made the move up here. That was let's see, that was 2018. Remy was born April 3rd. The teachers in Oklahoma walked out on April 2nd. It was downtown in the hospital with my wife. And I mean, it's vividly, remember because, I mean, you know, that was a really kind of new thing for administrators and, superintendents. And I was a superintendent of that school at the time, and contracts and how long is this going to last, and what all was going on, and we had a lot of board meetings, and it was just stressful, with having a new child. And so for me, you know, um, Lois Allenbaugh, Heather's grandmother, had texted her that there was a position at South Barber that was. The superintendent position open. And so at that time, while with my, brand new baby and, everything that was going on, it's like, that sounds really nice. Cause we had been up here in Kiowa, quite a bit over the years. I ran in the Labor Day 5K, visiting family, beautiful town. It's like even today when you're outside coming back from Norwich, that is it the Zach Bryan Pink Skies,
Yeah.
illusion that's out there. I mean, it's just beautiful. I'd go run on those dirt road out here, and you're just kind of taking your breath away a little bit by the fact that how beautiful it is. So
Now, I want to back up just a second. When you was at it was a charter school.
yep.
Now, did your teachers walk out during that deal?
Well, they did, and we had a board meeting, and at that time the public support was really high to support the teachers in the walkout. And in fact, our board and myself, we listened to them. We heard their desire to be involved in that. What took place. And so, yeah, they did. And I think we were out of school. I want to say it's close to a couple weeks, and we still fed kids. There was a waiver for being able to feed kids at the school, and you know, we went a little long that after everyone got back.
So I don't know how all of that works. You probably do, obviously, from being down there. I know, like where I went to high school at was Ellick, Oklahoma, which isn't it's 10 miles east of Chickasha, little bitty
Okay.
town, Class B
Oh yeah.
school,
Oh yeah.
and the principal down there is a good friend of mine, and he's told me that they never have any troubles, or this has been years back. They rarely had troubles finding teachers because of their financial stability. They could pay more than most schools could starting out, or they could recruit and stuff. And like
Mhm.
I remember when all that went down, they had nobody. Well, I mean, it was business as usual there.
Mhm.
And I think Burlington was kind of the same way, maybe even Cherokee. Was that primarily metropolitan schools that did that, or was that even some other small schools, or what would
Yeah.
what would he be meaning by, can you have uh, additional streams of revenue outside of what the state
Yeah.
and stuff's doing
Yeah.
that warrants that?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, at that time, we were really wrapped up in the Oklahoma City bubble. It felt like a bubble, and so in terms of Oklahoma City, I could tell you that the majority of
They
the
walked out.
schools in there did. The difference being, to the point to what you're saying is that the state of Oklahoma had at that time. I've been out for 8 years in Kansas, so I'm not exactly sure how much has changed, but they had a state minimum salary scale, and so that was part of the walkout. To the state, and that's why the rally took place at the Capitol, not in its entirety. There were other funding that for education that teachers sought. But you're right. I think that district to district, you can go above that state minimum salary schedule, and so if your teachers didn't feel compelled, to advocate for that, then you're exactly right. They probably wouldn't have. Um, the I don't think I'm pretty certain that Kansas does not have a state minimum salary schedule. Uh, it's more locally based per district. So districts in Kansas can look quite a bit different, from district to district versus, it can in Oklahoma also. But at the same time, you're not going to go below a certain pay threshold.
Didn't they? I always thought that when they remedied that thing, wasn't it kind of tied to the oil and gas industry? It was where the extra funds were going to come from. Was there? I was trying to think through. It seemed like to me, like they said, "All right, we're going to pull money from this deal," but you looked at it and you went, "Well, that's not sustainable."
Yeah,
it was. Am I on the right track, or do you remember that?
It takes me back, but I don't know exactly on the funding where they got additional funding. The interesting thing about that point, though, that you're making is, so prior there had been rumored that there was a scheduled walkout. Not just even rumored; it was probably going to happen, and it was set for April 2nd of that year. And again, I only remember that because my daughter was born April 3rd, so I have to be honest with you. My long term memory is not the best, but so the Oklahoma state legislator had negotiated with and I believe it was teachers union and grassroots movement, whatever all was going on, had met many of the demands. So, and again, I remember this because I'll tell you, as a rookie-ish, I should say, administrator, superintendent, and I have to be honest with you, I was kind of tunnel vision on concern of getting my kids back in school Monday, that April 2nd, because I thought, well, it's been negotiated, I'm excited. I talked with some board members, talked with our attorney. Yeah, it looks good. Can I go ahead and send out information? We're going to start school. Well, I do that, that we're going to start school. Well, it turns out that negotiation, whatever had happened, had not met, all the needs of the movement. So I do remember that because I took a little bit of heat on that one, and from teachers, so you never. Sometimes, you're never going to win, at all.
So South Barber probably looked rather appealing after going.
It looked very appealing. Yeah. But it was a good school, and it was it was a high intensity environment. There were high expectations. They had been, Harding, although a charter, and it is different. And I recognize that, but they, coming in as a leader and knowing that this school's been ranked number 1 by the U.S. News and World Report, one of the, kind of a premier school in the Oklahoma City area, and now you're in charge of it. So there's a lot. I felt a lot of pressure, taking over to maintain that excellence, because we had 4 years at number 1.
Wow.
And then I'm proud to say we continued that, for the 3 years that I was the, superintendent of the school. And so, yeah, it was tough, to maintain excellence, but, it was also nice to make the transition and slow down in life and experience a different state.
Yeah. A little change of pace from Kiowa, America, from downtown Oklahoma City.
It was
slightly.
Yeah, it was. And there was a learning curve, coming in from Oklahoma to Kansas, that first, that July 1 time frame when superintendent contracts start, I had spent a lot of time figuring out, although there are a lot of similarities, every state has its own, way of doing things, its own reporting mechanisms, its own financial, so And I had also walked into Kansas, honestly, at a really good time. I think if my memory serves me correctly, it was right about time there was a Supreme Court ruling, Kansas State Supreme Court ruling in favor of public schools to fund them, the per pupil higher, and they'd set out a plan for the next, 5 to, how many ever years. So,
Yeah. So hit the ground running here. And I'm going to just take a stab in the dark and say you probably took on a whole lot more roles than you had to at your previous job at South Barber.
Well, strangely enough, yes and no, maybe. Because the one thing that really attracted me to the charter school, because I had 2 different job offers, and one was in Mid-Del, and then I interviewed at the charter school, and it was a pay cut to go to the charter school. But the thing that really attracted me is this: I do like smaller environments, and there was this attitude of that I liked about Harding that is similar to South Barber, and it was, be willing to get your hands dirty, do more with less kind of attitude. And that kind of stuck with me a lot because, we didn't have all the resources that a quote unquote traditional school system would have. So we'd have to be creative to find those resources, whether it be grant writing or, fundraising or whatever it is. So, that kind of stuck with me. So we did and also as the superintendent, you're also the principal. So you're like in the head role, and I had assistants, that would help with, things, so, I was right there on site and right there with the kids. And so, that part is that, there's a lot more going on, when you're right there every day. At South Barber, the beautiful thing here is that it's such a small enough school district where you're never too far away from the kids. And, I will be honest with you, like the last year, like even when I was, able to be an assistant track coach here at South Barber, it was immensely refreshing because you get away from, just insurance or, whatever reporting or whatever complaints or whatever issue. And you're with the kids and you do remember that this is why we do it, and to me, that's the thing that was similar to Harding. If you're driving a bus, out to Weskin, Kansas and spending time with those kids and those coaches and watching them that morning, I still have a memory that'll stick with me. Watching those coaches that morning, doing this walkthrough with the kids before that football game in the hotel in the conference room. And they were well prepared, and our coaches did a fantastic job. They had a game plan. And I didn't know what to expect going into that game this year, but sitting in that hotel room, or that conference room and watching those coaches and kids and the game script that they had outlined for them, I was confident that was going to be one heck of a ball game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was.
It was. It was.
Cunningham should have sent us a thank you card because we beat Weskin up enough that they did not look like they wanted to play the next week in that state championship game. I watched some of that and I went, that is not the team that we played last week.
That was one of the most exciting football games I think I've attended.
Yeah,
I've been to a lot of ball games. Yeah. I mean, as an administrator, you're and parent, going to even other, college games. That was an exciting football game.
Unbelievable attendance from this community as far as that was.
Oh yeah.
Then that doesn't even touch how many people was watching it online.
Oh yeah.
Me and Humphreys and our kids rode out together, and he gets a phone call from his brother when we're leaving town, and we talked, I don't know how long we talked through the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
He was watching it from Piedmont, Oklahoma online,
mm-hmm.
and other people called and was visiting about, that's the one thing I've always loved about this community is just their support of
Oh
their
yeah,
young folks year after
absolutely.
year after year. And it's
Yeah.
like, and you know, like Garrett, he graduated in '05, but
Hmm.
yet he's calling to talk about that game. And, he was seeing it online,
Yeah.
but what was we seeing on the field?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was
And
a
that was a
great game.
5 hour trip. I mean, I know most of your listeners probably know
Yeah.
that, but that was 5 hours one way.
Yeah.
And you're telling the visitor stands were nearly filled in South
And,
Barber.
people on the
Oh
sides.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
it was amazing to be part of. Yeah.
Yep. So I didn't realize you did all that charter school. I think if you hear and I'm like,
Hmm.
you're not just a superintendent, you drive a bus when it needs done, you help with cross country, you help with
Hmm.
track. It just seems like you're doing. And so I just thought when you was at Harding, you was just superintendent rock and roll. I thought you wore a lot more hats here, but it sounds like
Nah,
you just kind of walked into the similar environment,
there
different
were
location.
yeah, there were some similarities. Yeah, I mean that you were, and that was the idea of the charter, to be a little more independent. That was the idea, was to you know um, just take kind of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, so to speak. Kind of take the initiative. You know, not you don't rely on the district. You have your own governance board, and they were made up of the parent organization. So I had 15 board members, and so the parents, along with the administrators, you ran the school. Where you lacked in funding, you tried to either fundraise, grant write, whatever it be. So we were in charge of the building. We subleased to another charter in the building, so we had probably about 1,000 people in a 4-story building downtown. Couldn't find a parking place to save your life, and
Yeah.
but yeah, so you had to do your own grounds and maintenance, and all these things, and so you just, the idea was not to rely on someone else to do it. You have to, and I like that attitude. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, if you're going to be successful, you know, don't rely. I mean, thank goodness we all have people that'll support us, like you mentioned with this community, beautiful community. They'll do anything for their kids. You can go anywhere in this community, and if you need extra money, they give it to you. And that's a beautiful part too of South Barber. Um, but at the end of the day, you want to be successful, you got to rely on you too. I mean, you have to go do it and get out there and just, I have done leadership for, 15 years. And there's not, I am very like interested in the topic of leadership, the study of it, the, different personalities that it takes. Um, but at the end of the day, when with these kids and people getting, wanting to get in leadership, you just have to get in there and do it, and get your hands dirty, and you're going to make mistakes, and it's very similar to the sports conversation that we're having. You drop that pass, focus on the next play. So
So we'll go ahead and just rip the Band-Aid off. You're going to another role
hmm
in the next school year.
yep.
So we get that out of the way. So I just want to ask you, knowing that, we've had this plan for a while in case people
Yeah.
are thinking, oh boy, he's
Yeah.
interviewing him, he's
I
leaving
know.
now. And I'm like,
We
no,
did.
we've
Yeah.
talked about this for a long time. And it's just now schedules have been
A
crazy.
lot of basketball right now.
Yes. Well,
So.
basketball, and then throw in influenzas and COVIDs and everything else, and schools
Snowstorms.
closing down, snowstorms.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, during your time here at South Barber,
hmm
is there something that you think, what's your proudest moment or proudest achievement? And maybe it's not something personally, but something
Yeah.
school wide that since you've been here.
Well, I'll try to talk on that maybe without getting too emotional, but because it is hard, it's been bittersweet.
And I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
I don't edit these, so if you cry, it's going to be on
Well,
here.
that's fine. I'm not worried about, anyone knocking me for crying. Because it has been an amazing experience and it's been a wonderful 8 years. And the people here have been very supportive and have loved on our kids and our family. And I think the toughest spot in this decision was that this to internally has probably been one of our better years. We've seen a tremendous surge in our state test scores, and I credit our our teachers, our administration, for what they've done. Our kids, the kids have been just so awesome. We've seen a lot of success, and when we're on the field or on the court, and it's. So it's just a really good year, and so uh, there's been COVID was tough. I remember COVID pretty vividly, in terms of just it, it was better here, and like for us in terms of management because it's smaller, but just the craziness of that and all the back end of it, after COVID was over, there was still a lot of financial reporting and
Oh yeah.
reports. And I think we just finished, those within the last year or two. It's that part of it just lingered on the back end. But I would say that I'm just, really impressed with I mean, this year is probably because it's most recent too, but been a lot of good memories. And we'll miss Kiowa, but we're not that far away, and we've got a lot of family here and a lot of friends, and so yeah, we are only an hour south, so.
What do you think? Looking ahead, I'm sure you did your homework. Uh,
Mhm.
what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be down there at Chisholm?
At Chisholm, well, there is you know a a little bit of a, what do you call it? I'm an in between right now, so to speak, because you want to finish strong and you want to, you know, do everything you can to support all the transition and everything that is taking place. So it's hard to look too far ahead. Um, so you don't know exactly what your what lies ahead because in administration, there are things that are out there, that are challenges always, and there's going to be in every school district, in every community. That's just the case. That's the reality of life. So I don't know in its entirety what, and that's also a bit relieving.
You could have just said, "I'm not sure." We'd have went on to the next
Oh,
question.
okay, okay, yeah. Well, I do ramble quite a bit. That is I,
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think was the biggest challenge uh, with South Barber? And not like saying there's a big negative thing, but
yeah.
what was some of the big hurdles that had to be overcome here, or challenges in a small school like this?
Yeah, well, at South Barber, I think that, and it's not uncommon to any kind of rural environment. There's a bit of a sense of isolationism to some level, and it's also a good thing. I mean, it's beautiful. I keep saying that, because you are, it's freer, kind of independent, wide open spaces. I mean, so it's a delicate balance of casting a vision of growth per se, and also maintaining your small town, the things that we love, and the close knit communities. So that's I think that's one of the bigger challenges for rural areas, because things can explode quickly in growth if a new company or new whatever it is, and jobs are available, and then you're looking at building a bigger school, and then, you know, so I would say that to attract people to school systems is such like South Barber, and definitely South Barber. I'd advocate always for South Barber because I think you just have some of the best teachers and staff and coaches that, in rural America. But is that one-on-one almost type environment. I've been in larger school districts where there's a chemistry class with 30 plus kids and the teacher is literally classroom managing versus, a Miss Beecher's chemistry class where it's almost, direct one-on-one tutoring. That is invaluable experience for a kid. They may not know that or see that because they don't know of any other experience out there. You can get vastly ahead of other students. So that's a like I told you prior, I tend to be pretty positive guy. That's a plus, in an area. But then you do hear the other end because you don't want your town or community to lose businesses. I think it wasn't long after I got here, the Kiowa News had shut down, and that was a pretty big deal for the community. And I remember hearing that. I was new, but I remember hearing, that was a pretty big hit. And then you don't want to lose your businesses and you don't want to lose your small businesses. And so I don't know. I don't have the right answer on the delicate balance, the way you approach that, the way you handle that. Like, how do you maintain what you have, not grow too big? Or do some people come in and maybe they just want it to grow big. I don't know.
So I've got an old college friend of mine that is a superintendent in Oklahoma now. Was a teacher for years, then worked his way into administration. And I think it varies day to day if he would rather go back to the classroom or not. He's in a big 5A school.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
And he's like, some days he's like, man, I just miss teaching ag instead of being the superintendent because and what he shared with me, and I've heard it from you because we've had conversations in your office before about, what do we need to do to help, the community or the school or whatever. And he told me straight up, he said, everything changed at COVID. He said, I can't hardly keep a teacher now. And he said, and not only can you not keep them, he said, sometimes they just give you their stuff at the end of the day and they don't come back.
Right.
He said, it's not even like they're saying, well, we'll stay to the end of the year or we'll give you 2 weeks notice. They just quit. And then he said, trying to fill those positions is difficult. And he's in a fairly large metropolitan area. And I would have thought it'd be easy peasy to find one. But I've heard you talk before about the challenges after COVID with getting teachers.
Oh yeah. No, that's a for real deal. And I mean, it's the state of Kansas is dealing with that also. There's 2,200 teacher vacancies or uncertified, statewide. I don't remember the exact quote. The State Board of Education is reviewing, certain departments, to see what they can do to make things, a little better, a little easier for administrators to get teachers in the classroom without, and obviously the conversations without diminishing, the profession. I mean, and that's in and of itself, its own delicate balance. I mean, because at the end of the day, you have to have a good human being in the classroom in front of your kids, and you are exactly right. There was a bit of a teacher shortage prior to COVID. And then after COVID, it became a, much more serious situation. And I don't think it's just Kansas or Oklahoma. I think it is nationwide. So I 100% agree with that statement. Each state has its own other reasons too, as to why it may be better or worse. But to go back to that point, the family unit is so critical in a child's developmental and educational growth, spiritual growth, whatever it is. And so, the challenges that educators face a lot of times in a metropolitan area or even in a rural area, it can be, a lot of times taken back to the family dynamics. Our kids are experiencing things that maybe some of us haven't, ever been through. And, some of those challenges, like I was talking about that isolation a bit, if there is a difficult scenario going on with a kid or a family that's going through some things or is, doesn't have, a mom or a dad even, all that is changed so much and it directly impacts the classroom, in the way that, we're able to teachers, it is piled on them more in some ways because it used to be, teach math, science, history, reading. Well, now, kids, you're almost, because we have mental health interventions and everything, you learn so much more. And that, COVID then piled on some of the medical stuff, and it just seems like a lot is being put back on the teacher than maybe what they originally had envisioned for them in the classroom.
And this is just a random question. Looking back through your own life growing up where you did, and and I'm going to look back through mine. Do you think there's more of a, I don't know the best way to put it. Is there, did we just not recognize mental health issues years ago? Because it seems like it's more on the forefront now than I remembered when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question because it has been more new, not newish in the grand scope of, because I look at when I look at education, I look all the way back to one room schoolhouses. Like that's where my study is at. I tell people I'm an educational nerd in that regard. I love reading about school systems. I mean, I think the first, just a random fact, late 1800s, the first school violence was a kid blew up a one room schoolhouse with dynamite, and yeah, I mean, so we think that some things under the sun are new, but they're not, like in terms of violence or mental health issues. Has the awareness, become, has that become, more on our forefront a lot, mental health awareness, is it the medical community also advancing in science and all of that to help guide educators and so absolutely, I think that's true. I think, you guys have talked about this before too, is that, I mean, our kids are vastly exposed to worldwide information and have worldwide stuff on them all the time, and some of that is, lends itself to a different than what I had. I didn't have, a phone till I think it was a flip phone, and I actually loved it. Razor flip phone
Yeah.
in college.
They were awesome.
Now they carry these supercomputers, and they can make money off of being, influencers or what, you learn these things. I didn't know that was
call it influencers or being just straight goofy.
Yes, and make lots of money.
Yeah.
Being, just being, because people will watch it. And no, I'm not saying that is the reason for the mental health. I think that, again, you and I've had enough conversations over, time that I think it goes back though to the family and the unit that is there. And that is the most critical influence on a child's education. As much as we as educators would like to move that needle, higher, there's only so much that we can do according to science, and research. What the family has the greatest impact on the child.
Yeah. Well, I know the disciplinary actions within a school have changed drastically from when I was in school till now. I mean, I don't think my kids believe that they used to give SWATs in school.
I got them.
I received them. And
that was the old Board of Education.
Yeah, literally.
Yes, it was.
But, I had a conversation. I have to get a wellness check every year. And something I did in January was I went back to my old job at Extension, and I still help the company I was with in a smaller role. But with that job, I had to have social media accounts for almost everything because we helped different companies with that. Mm-hmm. And when I knew I was backing out and really scaling down into some specific things with the marketing company, I told them, I said, if you need me, call me or text me. There are 0 social media apps on this phone. And when I transitioned out of that role. I mean, I deleted apps, others I had to sign out of, because here's the catch on those. Like, you go to get rid of an app, and if you don't know your password, then you got to reset it. Well, then it's 30 days before you can delete the app now.
Yeah.
And then there's certain ones tied to this and that. Well, so I just made a commitment. I said, I'm not going to scroll on social media. I'm not going to interact with that. I'm going to get more focused on, because what I do with Extension is we're an educator. We're faculty with K-State. We teach, and I need to be dialed in on that. And so I still manage a couple social media accounts, and I do the old post and ghost. I go in, set the calendar, and then I get out. I will check the analytics to make sure we're on track with stuff or reaching people properly, because we track that as well.
Okay.
But during my wellness exam, my doctor, we were talking about that, and he said, I need to start implementing that as a question. If you're having some anxiety and different stuff, how much are you on this?
Well,
because like, people may listen to this and think I'm goofy, but I don't even use Safari or Chrome, or I use a completely different browser on this that, my conversations aren't being recorded. I'm not going to, scroll the internet and me and you have a conversation about OU football and season tickets pop up. I've got this thing so locked down that it's basically for talking, texting. I can catch some Yahoo emails on it. Yeah, that's about it, But he said, these things, it is so easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
And these things I think they've become a babysitter to a lot of parents at times.
Yeah.
And then we kind of wonder why we may have some social issues, or anxiety of they're exposed to so much stuff. How do I live up to that? Well, you're not expected to live up to that, but they're thinking they should, and at that, it's like, sometimes it's like, we don't want you to live up to that. That's a bad example.
Well, I mean, it is good anecdotal evidence. It's not the first that I've ever heard either, because I don't engage much at all. I have not made a lot of wise decisions in my life. My wife is a good decision. It may be a bad decision for her. I don't know.
Let's just get this out of the way. I'll throw myself in there. We both outpunted our coverage with our wives. Okay, let's just get that out of the way.
Okay. Yes. And so, and then I don't know, when Facebook and all that started coming about, I just did not see good in it from the beginning. I don't want to say that I was able to look ahead. I just thought, I don't think this is going to turn out well. And I've heard more people than not say, when they stop, looking at, social media and, disengaging from the technology or apps and all this, that they just feel better. They're just happier. So
there will be some people that watch this that will think I'm straight up lying what I'm fixing to tell you.
Yeah.
But everybody that knows me knows that I rarely walked around without an energy drink in my hand. I mean, I could put down anywhere from 500 to 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day. It didn't matter.
And still sleep at night. Wow.
Sometimes, when my brain wasn't overlooked. No, I never had any trouble sleeping, but I haven't had an energy drink in quite a while now. And maybe it's just coincidence. I mean, I had a little cup of coffee here. We had a big battle of a junior high basketball game, and I might have overexerted myself cheering and stuff, and then ate a big meal afterwards. And I thought, I'm going to have a little cup of coffee before me and you talk. And got this little sparkling mineral water, but it was not. I would buy those by the case, and don't even desire one. And I don't know if it's tied to that or what.
I don't know either, but I mean, again, so many people have said they're happier, and when they get away from it,
and just the personal production, your work being done and the effectiveness and the quality of it. Man, I've just felt so much better. And I've told some people, I said, it's as simple as this. I said, a lot of bad decisions started out with good intentions, and this is one of the things I'll tell you, when I made that commitment, I'm getting off of there. I first started with, I'll only get on there to wish people happy birthday
Yeah.
and to check memories. Well, then it quickly moved to, if I don't know when your birthday is, I'm sorry. I'll figure it out eventually. I don't even look at that now because I thought
Oh, I'm with
all it
you.
takes
Yeah.
is that. And then 3 hours later, you're trying to solve the murder of Charlie Kirk. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
went to wish
Yeah.
you happy birthday. Now I'm scrolling for 3 hours and, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, just, I, I don't know how to explain it other than I have a whole lot less problems than I've had in a long time right now.
Well,
And
good.
occasionally I'll
Good.
watch the news
Yeah.
lightly, maybe just the sports and the weather, and don't even
Yeah.
worry about the rest of it. But I'm like,
Well, and
oh,
and I, I maybe I think I was should have been born in a different time, period, because I, in Oklahoma City, the News OK, the Daily Oklahoman it was dying, um, you know, and newspapers themselves at that time. So that was, 10, 15 years ago, and then I get to Kiowa, and, the newspaper is, I mean, I get it, the Newsgram, the Jip Hill Premiere. When I first got here, it was Kiowa News, and I
yep.
love reading the newspaper, you know, and so, but everyone's would rather read the news on their phone or whatever it is. So,
You'll appreciate this. I went to the meeting that Google had recently on possibly putting a data center in Barber County.
oh yeah,
Called a couple people and said, "Man, it'd been nice to see you there at that meeting." Well, I didn't even know about it. I'm like, it was on the front page of the Jip Hill Premiere, which is sold at the grocery store by the cash register. And I do know it's all over the news because news
yeah,
stations were there. I'm
yeah,
sure it's on social media somewhere and you missed it,
yeah.
you know?
Well, well, as a school district, we deal with that too. With getting information out, right? And there's so many ways people are inundated with information overload. If it's remind messages, Facebook, newspapers, whatever it is, we forget the beauty of just word to mouth. I
Yeah.
mean, telling your friend, hey, giving them a call. I mean, we expect that everyone is going to know, and they probably did know or see, but then there's just so many other distractions going on all the time, and you're flooded with that. You become anesthetized at some level on the information you're getting all the time. It just, at least I do.
Yeah.
I feel overloaded by some of this stuff. And when someone personally comes in and, you know, reminds you, and I think that's the same way it is with the churches. You're not going to go to church unless a friend goes and, says, "Hey man, love to see you," or,
Yeah.
I mean, our preacher reminded us of that. And, as
Yeah.
opposed to text or posting your, everyone's, have a cool church sign or whatever it is, cool Facebook page. That's the way. No, that human factor is missing so much. And that was, there was two good things for me that came out of COVID. One, the reminder, because we had that, you talk about a memory that sticks out. We had a graduation right here on Main Street, right across from the corner stop, in golf carts, and because of all the social distancing, thing, and outdoor, and all that. But you forget the how social beings we really are, and how much we missed, you know, seeing one another at a ball game. How much honestly connection happens at a ball game, just through conversation. And you're there watching your kids, or I'm watching my kids. We're cheering on our community team, but we're also sitting there talking and catching up, and we hadn't had that opportunity because everybody's lives are busy. And then also Zoom meetings. You don't have to travel, to Topeka or wherever it is. You could save the district some money on gas because I could get on a Zoom meeting, and I can also multitask because, you could mute that and do what you need to do. But those are two, things. And if you think about the highest level of punishment that America has, solitary confinement for even people who are quote unquote like, psychopathic or whatever it is, and disconnecting them from other people and,
No.
social environment is so important. So, yeah, we have distanced ourselves and we wonder why we have mental health issues when everything is a screen and it's not a person anymore and it's not a conversation. That's why I love this podcast thing. And, and I do that. That's kind of blown up and is great. You can sit, you can talk, and you connect with people. So,
And I tell you, I I started this just to try to tell stories about Kiowan people
hmm
and hoping that because we don't have a local paper now. I will say this: the next episode that'll come out will be Jason Jump, who's bought the Jip Hill premiere,
oh yeah,
and we visited briefly, and I told him how much I appreciated him covering the South Barber community
yeah,
more. You know, they
yeah,
made the trip to Weston,
yeah,
just like
yeah,
everybody else, and
yeah.
and I appreciate that because I'm a sucker for a newspaper. I had the
hmm
subscription to the old Daily Oklahoman for years,
hmm
and I just want to bring him on, give him a plug, let him push his paper a little bit and stuff because I think he's doing
Absolutely.
a great
Yeah, I
job with
do.
it.
Very nice.
But that being said, uh, I know you're not active on social media, and
Mhm,
I know I have been in the past, so I know I've seen some stuff. You
mhm,
might not have, I don't know. Uh, but there are stuff I've shared with people. Sometimes our small communities can be very cannibalistic.
mhm,
Like we will eat our own and tear our own up
mhm.
faster than anything else.
Yeah.
And it seems to be played out a lot of times on these social media, on community forums and stuff. I'm not immune to it. I don't think we're saying anything that's not already known. I mean, there's been people
Right,
take shots at this school district,
right.
at this community. Uh,
Mhm.
how do you navigate through that personally? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure there were shots taken directly at you.
Yeah, well, you are right, and it's not just South Barber. I mean, it's
Right.
got real nasty, in a with the online, kind of warriors, so to speak.
Yeah. Let me make that clear.
Yeah.
It's not just this community,
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
speaking with if somebody's taking a personal shot at you or the district or whatever.
yeah, well, one, I don't take things personally because I've kind of been doing this a little bit where I don't see it as personal. If someone's upset about something or even were to, call me out or whatever, because it kind of comes with a position. So for me, I don't engage in social media. I don't have any, like I will post stuff positive about the school district on the school district's, Facebook, but I don't have a personal, I never have. I just, like I said, this is probably the one wise, two
Yeah.
wise decisions I made in my life. Um, so, so I don't take it personally. I don't like it what I hear because people do share. People will come in and talk to me. They do so and so post or whatever. And again, I go back to that human factor. For me, it's a sit down, a face to face. Like look someone in their eyes, talk with them. We may agree, we may disagree, we may be upset with each other. I mean, it happens. I mean, that's okay. I mean, we just, as long as we can do it in a way that at the end of the day, uh, you know, we've got the children's best interest at heart, and we just have different perspectives. I don't have a problem with that. And I have a lot more respect if you're going to say like, versus if someone's going to come in and talk to you or call you or it's a small enough town. So I have had, and by the way, people do, and people have visited. If people come over and that's great. So I'm not saying they don't, but yeah, that is way more meaningful to me again, and maybe that's just because of all the things I said. No social media engagement. I don't take a lot of validity in something that's typed online. Partly due to the fact that if we've never had a conversation, that it is the biggest challenge in administration. You and I've talked about this before too. Is you can't say a lot, and that's tough. I get that. If I'm a parent in the community and I have kids in the school system, and you want transparency out of your governments, you want transparency. That's completely understandable. I mean, then you have a lot of restrictions though too as an administrator along legal, personnel, legal issues, stuff that you just can't go out and, advertise in the public for the protection of the employee or whatever's going on at that time, or kid issue, student incidences. And, smaller towns, I mean, I grew up in one, and we all realize that, everyone does kind of want to know what's going on. And so, there'll be rumors and there'll be this and that. And if you don't know, it kind of means we're doing our job, because we're being sensitive to the privacy needs of that child, that family, that issue. But we just love the face to face. Hopefully, we can build trust with one another enough to where you trust that we're going to try our best to make the right decision. Trust is huge, and building trust. And like, I think it goes back to a little bit, face to face ball games, being next to one another, talking it out,
There's sometimes things are just beyond your control. Like if I was to recognize a member of 4-H in Barber County achieving something, I can't put that child's full name on the social media post. We're encouraged not to put any names, but if we do, it's like a first name and a last initial. And we'll have people complain about that. And I'm like, that's a mandate above my head. I'm just following it. I'm following the guidelines of my job, and I'm not going to buck that just for you. So I get fired for breaking the rules, And so I think sometimes people don't realize just how tight some things can be when it comes to youth development and things like that.
Yeah.
I'll say this, if people don't know, they will. I mean, we've had some colorful conversations behind closed doors, visited about different things and challenges. And I can say, I don't know that we've always agreed 100% on everything.
Yeah.
But it never affected me and you seeing each other at a game or like doing this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay to have a different perspective of something.
Sure.
You don't have to hate somebody just because they don't see everything the way
they do. No. Hey, I agree. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I wake up in the morning pretty humble. Honestly, it's bragging that you're humble, but nonetheless, I assume I'm wrong. That's always my first assumption. That I was wrong about something. So, and that turns out to be true. But
I'm sure you get some people that point that out.
Yeah, they'll let you know. The thing is like anybody, no one does want to be on, blasted, worldwide as well, look at what an idiot. Well, I understand, you put your pants on the same way as anybody else. There's nothing special, behind. There's no special magic. You get up and you try to do your best. And I will always go back to this, and I know it's probably said too many times as a bumper sticker, Dale, but it is about the kids. In any of these scenarios that we've had or any school district has, do not lose sight of the biggest purpose about the children. The kids in the school system. We'll get wrapped up in, contracts and finances and union, these systems of education become these conglomerates of political divisions, and then we forget why we walked in today, about that child sitting right there in the seat, and that's why we did it. Not to, although, in administration, people, because I can hear people like, whoa, in administration, you make, it's because I'm going to say it's not about money, because it's not about money. It is not. I mean, if you are in it for money, no matter if you're in administration or if you're teaching, it isn't about that. I mean, you got in the wrong profession. You need to go try something else. I mean, it is about the kids at the end of the day. I mean, and I get it. People need to make a living and all that. I'm not trying to diminish teachers or administrators or anything, but if you lose sight of that, you've lost it.
Yeah.
It's gone. We're not doing the public common good anymore.
Yeah. I remember there was a situation, I think it's last year, that, some people went back crap crazy on Facebook because we had school one day and it was cold. And I'm like, it's cold. I mean, they were,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so cold that we shouldn't have our kids out. And I'm like, well, think of it in another way. And the only reason I think of it this way is a community I lived in before very rarely turned school out. Bad weather, they were going to have school.
Yeah.
And I was, as a member of the same church as the superintendent, was visiting one time, and I said, how come we had school when everybody else was turned out? And
Hmm.
she just looked me right in the eyes and said, you know how many kids wouldn't have had a warm meal or a warm place to go if we wouldn't have had school?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think there's some of that here is,
there is, and it's not just. I mean, that is true, and there's also like when you're leading an organization, you have hourly people too, and they have livelihoods, and you have kids that have homes that may not, like you said, may not be warm, there may not be food. You've got employees who may not get paid. So you do kind of wade through all those little checklists in terms of trying to always do the safest thing possible, but also take care of your people, all of them. Because I mean, you want to make sure they don't lose a day of wages or
yeah,
hourly wages, or and then you don't, you do know there are families in town that might not have heat or a good meal, and so yeah, all that kind of weighs on you, in those decisions.
yeah, you want to get humbled a little bit. If people watching this is
Yeah.
look up the statistics on childhood hunger and poverty,
Yeah.
and then start looking at it around this area,
Oh yeah.
and it's not as rosy as some people might think, And so I think
Not.
our school has to play a vital role in
Yeah.
helping,
Yeah.
and so it does. So uh, we have went considerably longer
Oh,
than I thought we would,
okay.
but I want to wrap this up with a couple of things. One, uh, I know we've had a good enough relationship that I have no doubt you're going to do your job to the day you leave, and I appreciate that.
Thank
Uh,
you, sir.
we were just talking uh, at supper on the way home from the basketball game, and I've got a daughter that I told her, I said, you better take full advantage while you can, because um, some people may not know this, that when you started helping, track last year, uh, GNC dropped 30 seconds off her half mile
Mm.
pace, was league champion, knocked on the door, having the school record. And she'll be the first to tell you it was because of the coaching that you provided. And so I've always appreciated that. Uh,
Well, I appreciate that statement, but I will tell you that she, she's a very competitive young lady, and God has given her a special talent and athletic ability. So have a very minor role in any advancement there. She will give both of your kids. They give such tremendous effort, and they're wonderful kids. And so I don't want to take anything away from that. She's they do a great job. And then, yeah, I'm excited for track. I'm excited, um, you know, for the rest of this year. Like I said, it's bittersweet, and we love South Barber. Um, so, yeah, I thank you. I appreciate it. And there's been a lot of nice people, and there's been a lot of positive things, and we, we are leaving in with good spirits and good hearts, toward everything that's gone on. I'm a positive person. At the end of the day, that's what I just try to keep positive about everything. And this is a great school district, and I have no doubt that it'll just continue to get better.
yeah. Well, that being said, big OU fan.
Yes, sir.
What what's your what's your favorite OU football memory? In person or not in person, doesn't matter.
I will tell you there are two. One, and it's personal just because it was, I got, and I don't want to get emotional when I say this. I went to the OU Notre Dame game years ago, and it was just me and my dad, and we don't necessarily get to spend a lot of time together. So, um, you know, and the OU lost, but that didn't matter. We just spent time. So.
Have you ever read The Undefeated?
I have not. No.
I'm question your
Yeah.
loyalty to OU
Yeah.
if you've not read that book.
Okay.
That's the book that kind of tells the history of how OU became the football team they did.
Okay.
Some people may not know that the way they got that ball rolling was, I believe it was after World War II. They had the GI Bill.
Yeah.
And they funneled in some middle-aged guys to play college football on the GI Bill. And as we've talked, sometimes when you roll out full-grown men against 18 and 19-year-olds, you can stand out. And they may or may not have had a little bankroll that helped, you know, because it talks about him going through the Tatum years. And then when he went to Maryland, you know, Bud comes in and they were paying players back then. It talks about it in the book, but all the way through the years and stuff. But I've got that book. If I think about it, I'll bring it by sometime for you to take a look at.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Have you read Bootlegger's Boy?
No, but I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Barry Swisser's.
Yeah.
That, well, what about Life Down and Dirty, Life and Crimes of an OU Football Player? Are you killing me?
I know I'm killing you. Like I am not, I am not as well read in the sports area. You know, I love sports. I just, I mean, it's a, you know, fleeting distraction, and I am an avid OU fan. You know what I'm saying? But I enjoy the social aspect of it a lot more too, you know, in terms of being there, you know, with family or friends and kind of enjoying that part of it. Although you know, am a Sooner fan. So sorry, Kansas State or, you know, whatever it is. We all have our particular loyalties, but there's nothing more fun than just kind of hanging out and cheering. And, you know,
I was at an OU Nebraska game in the fall of 93. Fall of 93 or fall of 92. Cale Gundy was quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him, not me, stadium booed him off the field all game. Nebraska was beating up OU. It was the post-Switzer era, and Gary Gibbs was trying to do what he could, but it's like nobody remembered just how harsh of penalties they had been imposed through probation and stuff. And then fast forward so many years later, you know, Cale was on that coaching staff for however many years, and the uproar of when he got fired, it's like I've seen both ends of the spectrum when they booed him off the field as a quarterback and when they were crying about him getting fired as a coach.
Yeah. Oh, that's, you know, there's only one other, I would say, you know, you are really good with sports history. Like I learned a lot in a short amount of time when you did the South Barber, I think it was the homecoming game, or was it when the team was back, the state championship team?
Well, that was homecoming.
That was homecoming. Yeah, we had it both in one, you know, and they, you know, you do a great job of calling the plays and, you know, walking through all of that in the sports history. There's only one other person that from Kiowa, used to be, is that might give you a bit of a rival, and that was Brent Schaefer. He was like an encyclopedia of sports. He'd just tell me all these stats and names and people from, you know, I'm like,
but you know, I have a one up on Brent.
Okay.
And he knows this if he watches this.
Okay.
Because he was a Missouri fan.
Yeah.
I was at the ball game.
Yeah.
When Missouri and OU were playing, and Norm Stewart got sick on the plane ride, and so he was at the hospital.
Okay.
And their assistant coach was coaching the basketball game that night. National television. OU's not. Both of those teams were very, very good at that time, and OU's not playing up to their standard. Billy Tubbs is their coach, and it just so happened somebody threw like a cup on the basketball court, and the ref stopped the game, and they go over to Billy Tubbs and tell him, "Can you get on the in-house mic and tell him to stop that?" And Billy Tubbs, you know, YouTube it. It's one of the greatest moments in basketball history. He goes to the in-house mic on national TV, mind you, and says, "Regardless of how terrible the officiating is here tonight, please refrain from throwing stuff on the floor." And I was in the arena that night because we were going, "Did he just say that?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I was trying to think. I think I was a sophomore in high school. Uh, uh, a schoolmate of mine had season tickets, and from where I lived to the Lloyd Noble on a good day was about a 45-minute drive.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't have a license at the time, but he did, and his parents had season tickets and let us. We'd go up. We went up there and watched that. We remember watching, Lonnie Kruger coached at OU, but
Yeah.
my first time seeing Lon Kruger in the Lloyd Noble was when he was coaching K-State and had Steve Henson was his point guard, who ended up being one of his assistants at OU. And remember being there with Eddie Sutton when Sean Sutton was playing, and every time Sean touched the ball, the crowd would chant, "Daddy's boy, Daddy's
I do.
boy."
I remember that. Yeah.
So, but no, that's, I think we lose a little bit of that. Like my kids, I've got a daughter that eats up sports, and we spit trivia at each other
really?
and stuff. But
That's great.
when you grow up,
Yeah.
and like I watched a lot of OU sports growing up because we didn't have all the sports channels we got now.
Yeah.
We had about 3 or 4 channels on the TV, and usually there's 1 or 2 college games a week, and a lot of times it was University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so you just became a fan.
Yeah.
But now that's I like talking OU sports with some people from time to time. I'm not a diehard.
Yeah.
I was at one time, 35-7 loss in the Big 12 championship. Ruined me of that because I literally had to unplug my phone from the wall. That's back when the phone was on the wall.
Yeah.
Because I got tired of people calling, and it didn't end there. That was Saturday night. Sunday morning, I go to church, and the preacher even starts the church service was there a football game last night? Anybody want to put purple on white or something like that? And I'm like, this is church, for crying out. I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm not getting wrapped up in this anymore.
Well, when I first moved here, the first couple of years, K-State beat OU, and I heard pretty good about it. There was a planting of a flag. I won't mention by whom or who all it was, of a K-State flag right across the border, right in front of the Oklahoma sign. That's the funniest thing I ever saw. But yeah.
Now, good times. My high school principal, it wasn't when I was he was my high school principal, but his daughter-in-law years later became the head basketball coach at OU, and that was Sherry Cole.
Oh, wow.
Now, Jim Cole was my high school principal. His wife was my English teacher, and Sherry was just like coaching high school ball back then, and then went on to become a pretty good little basketball coach.
Yeah.
So let me throw this at you.
Yes, sir.
Big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the best OU coach ever?
Ooh, best OU coach ever. And we're talking football, right?
We can talk any sport. Could be Patty.
Well, yeah. I mean,
is she better than Bud or Barry or Bob or?
Man, that's a tough one. I have to think about that one first. You're the encyclopedia here. I mean, Barry Switzer, how many national titles?
3.
Okay. Bud, 3.
I think he had 3.
Yeah, 3. Big Game Bob. That was kind of more my era, and we went to so many. We just couldn't close the deal. I remember
he became Big Game Bob like year 2.
Yeah.
And didn't really follow through after that. I mean, he settled for Big 12 champion Bob after that.
Yeah.
Not to discount all the wins he got, but boy, they took some lumps.
Yeah, because we lost to Florida in the national title. And I remember watching that one, on a little, like, the TV went out. I remember watching it with my brother in Oklahoma City. It went out right before the game, national title game. We ran over to Walmart real quick. All they had was this little, like, 16-inch. We bought it and plugged it in and watched USC. That was a terrible beat down. LSU, so he had his chances. There wasn't another one, but I mean, we beat Florida State.
There was, and who knows what happens if you play Florida in the state of Florida for the national title.
Yeah.
And I think it was like the first play of the game. There's a bona fide personal foul. Helmet to helmet hit on the wide receiver. I mean, they lit him up.
Mhm.
And that kind of set the tone of the game and just let Florida know that we can get down and dirty from here on out. And it's like, oh, you didn't realize that you could do the same thing,
Yeah.
but you're sitting there playing Florida in Florida. You played LSU in New Orleans,
Yeah, true.
and we don't know it at that time, but Jason White's injured,
Yeah.
a lot worse than anybody thought.
Yeah.
And at that, Kewan Jones has a chance to catch a pass that I think
Oh,
ties
yeah.
the
Oh,
game,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and we miss it.
Yeah.
I say we. I had nothing to do with it, but I mean it's there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Florida just ran away from them. That USC deal,
That was a debacle.
that was tough.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah.
But that was also the best team money could buy at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not like the University of Texas, but I will tell you firsthand, I rooted for them against USC in that Rose Bowl game
Yeah.
when Vince Young
Yeah.
basically beat them by himself. I was like,
Oh, yeah. That may have been one of the.
we were all Texas fans that
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe.
Well, it was one of them. You wanted to see USC lose so bad because they were just
Yeah.
so over the top,
So were you an Indiana fan?
No,
I mean, in terms of the title this year.
I do not like the University of Miami whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember the 80s games with OU. I mean, and we can go back there when OU lost to Miami.
Yeah.
In Miami. I mean, OU always played national title games like in the home stadium of their opponent. It's like at some point, it took them for years to finally get a national championship game like at the Cotton Bowl, which would make it a little more appealing for like an OU team. Yet they ain't been there. But, I remember those 80s teams from Miami, and I just couldn't stand them. I mean, it was the same with, like USC. But I appreciate what Cristobal's done at Miami. I mean, can't deny that. I mean, a lot of people didn't even think they should have been in the playoffs, and they beat the snot out of everybody to get to that national championship game. And Indiana, man, I didn't think I'd ever see a coaching feat that could have topped Bill Snyder at K-State, and I think Kirk Cinetti did it.
Yeah.
When you win a national title in your second year at Indiana, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never, I mean, it's great for them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I don't want to say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I did tell my wife during that game, I said, you realize there was so much money come in. We're watching the game. I said, there was so much money come in on Miami over the weekend that it lowered the spread. And I said, watch that. I mean, there were some plays that weren't called. And I'm like, I think they're trying to keep this thing close, give Miami a shot because all that money coming in. And thank goodness Indiana was good enough that it didn't matter. But hey, Miami still made the spread.
Yeah. Well, we all love the David and Goliath, I mean, we're rooting for David, and Indiana it had that feel a little bit, even though they were undefeated.
Well, I looked at them and I thought that was the closest thing to an NFL team I'd seen in college football.
Yeah.
The way they dismantled, I mean, up until Miami, I mean, they had just completely dismantled everybody in every facet of the game. And, and I look back and it's the same way with that OU Florida game. If that penalty's called on that pass that they light up that receiver along the sideline, how does that change the rest of the game?
Yeah.
Because that guy's probably thrown out. I mean, they missed a direct helmet to helmet on Mendoza early in the game. I mean, he's walking off the field with a bloody mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you miss that? I mean, you've got an official that's right there in the backfield, but they miss it. And it's like, well, if they throw the penalty there, does that change the complexion of the game? Because that's the guy that delivers the hit, he's kind of a big deal on that defense. And so you look through there and you think, that Miami got some calls. I think Indiana got some calls. I felt like Miami got more calls than Indiana. I did not want Miami to win that game.
I don't want to go down that road because I love college football so much, but there's so much money, that's involved, and you don't want to go down that road on the spreads and, how that affects play calling. Cause the NBA has had their own issues with refereeing and, not literal, not just a theory. It was actually happening, with the referees shaving points and calling certain calls to.
Big deal right now with college basketball.
Yeah.
And I don't know how big idiots you got to be to do that. I mean, they went through these little small schools doing all that. And then you get these big bets on these schools that's never been bet on. It's like, well, there's your red flag. I mean, I don't know why you thought you was going to get away with it when nobody's bet $10 on Kennesaw State all year, but now 300,000 just came in on them. It's like probably not the sharpest knives in the drawer on that.
I give, just as a spectator, I want to have look at it with a pure heart, but and just enjoy it and hope it's just pure competition is what you want.
Yeah.
Because you just want there's a lot of money in it. About the funniest line I heard, to go back to Mendoza though, Kirk Herbstreit, when that quarterback from Indiana would run, but he says, he runs like a baby giraffe. And but that was probably one of the funnier lines of all of college football season. Because he does, he's a tough kid though.
Yeah, he was effective.
Yeah,
we're gonna find out how tough he is next year when I think the Raiders draft him. and see how tough he is there, because he's probably going to get hit a little bit in the NFL.
Better get an O-line.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to visit.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's a really cool deal. I think it's capture history in Kiowa, particularly too, people, there's generations and institutional knowledge and different things that can pass so quickly without us recognizing it. So I think, you giving people voices to be able to engage in that, and a collection and record of history is awesome. So
you bet. Well, I'll throw it out. You got anything you want to say to your haters before we get off here?
No, absolutely not. I
wish you can look right at the camera. You can say whatever you want. If you
yeah. No,
wait, you may not even you might not even have any haters.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's about kids. It's about doing what's right by kids. And it's not about me anyways. It never has been, never should be. It's not about one individual in, South Barber. It does need to be a collective team effort, all the way through, and with the best interests of the kids in mind, and just knowing that we all come from different backgrounds and experiences, and we're going to have differences. I mean, you sit at your family Thanksgiving dinner table, and, you don't want to, dad says something, you don't want to blast him on Facebook, and I don't know, or whoever, I just grew up with, you don't bring up religion and politics. And I try to stay as neutral as I can in any of that, because I don't like division in communities. I really don't like that, but I mean, it happens, and you just try to remedy it the best you can, and forgive, and ask for forgiveness. And
I've got a little holiday tradition. It's mostly at my mom's, because that side of the family is notorious for not having real secure passwords on their cell phones, and they leave them around. We didn't get it done this year, but generally every year we unlock somebody's phone and take a selfie, and then we open up their Facebook page and we put that on there.
Okay.
And like if it's me and it's my brother-in-law's Facebook page, I put, couldn't ask for a better brother-in-law, best brother-in-law ever.
That's better what this could be. Yeah.
Or we'll do it on my mom's and then tag myself in it.
Yeah.
And it gets more traction. And she's like, man, my Facebook page is blowing up. I wonder what's going on, And they don't have a clue that we've taken a selfie and posted it on their Facebook wall, because their passwords weren't secure enough.
Yeah. Password 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is. That's not secure enough.
Yeah. Well, hey, have a good rest of the evening.
Yeah.
And best of luck the rest of the school year. And then obviously moving forward, I know you're not going to be too far away, and you've still got family in this area, so
absolutely,
I doubt that you're not going to be back at some point. But appreciate. I would say I appreciate any time I reached out to you and wanted to have. And I'll say this very openly, face-to-face conversations with you, you never said no. I've always felt like there were
Thank
some
you.
times that you went out of your way to make sure those happened.
Yeah.
And we never put a time restriction on them. There was times that we visited short. There's times we visited long.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that because I'm going to say it, man, for crying out loud, if you got a burr under your saddle, usually the best remedy is get yourself calmed down and go have a conversation.
Yeah.
And just know, have it face to face and just know that people can get along without agreeing 100% on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if we was all the same, the world would be boring.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So I've always
I appreciate
appreciated
that.
You know,
You try to be efficient like that. That's always like in my head, like try to be as efficient as I can. So sometimes I get moving too quickly or not as, like, and then you end up, you want to be transparent because no one, I mean, who wants to be called a liar or being I mean,
Mhm.
I don't, anyone who would want that attached to him. So but then maybe if you're too, a small town, so open door right there on Main Street. You always come in and talk or set up an appointment. But if sometimes you can, not be prepared enough to give the right answers because you're trying to be efficient and too open. So I have learned over time maybe to, well, I'm hoping, kind of slow down. But that goes against my innate nature as a runner. You never slow down.
Yeah.
You try to push harder, go faster.
Yeah. Well, I was going to end it, but I got one more question.
Yeah.
How disappointing is it when you finally win the 5K?
Yeah.
and they don't give you the 5K award? Wasn't it 2 years ago? You had
they did.
You had
They
the
did.
fastest time, and they gave you some other award.
Yeah. Well, then listen, I'm going to tell you something. So Teresa McKinney and that staff, they were so nice. They ended up bringing a trophy, and I'm going to tell you, as a runner, as a competitor, anyways, the trophy doesn't matter ever. Honestly, like even the trophies that they raise up for, it's what you did. Like you want a time in your head. Not so much now. Now I'm just glad I don't die whenever I run a race. I will tell you since this is, I can, I like denigrating humor here, like kind of take shots at myself so I don't offend anybody else. But I was running the 5K here one year, and that kid, God bless him, from Alva, and then
would win everything.
Oklahoma City.
The
I went out way too fast, and he dropped me quick, but way too fast for my age. And I was rounding this corner up here where you run to the community building, and I threw up all over myself, like while running. And I never have done that before. Just, and there's this poor, old lady sitting on the curb. She's cheering on runners. And I'm running and I just throw up. And she's like, oh, getting up. And I'm like, I won't throw. I'm so sorry. It's embarrassing. But, and then I finished and I felt bad for Mylo Miller. He had to take my bib off and or like the little detachment at the end, and it had throw up all over it. And I'm a grown man. I'm throwing up on myself in a race. So I kind of knew at that point it was time to, not take competition, as serious with your physical body.
I ran that 5K the first time, and I'd never ran that far in my life. The farthest I'd ever ran was like a mile and 3/4. Well, the very first time I ran it, I'd never ran it, that far. And I that gentleman that you're talking about, I met him back on that end of town going the other way. And I thought, well, who's that dummy running the wrong way? I didn't realize he'd already finished the race and was running it backwards.
It's like the third time of the day he ran it. He'd go running in the morning before the race and then destroy everybody.
But I did, when I hit 50, I didn't train a lot hard, but I did do a little training. I darn sure wasn't in running shape. But I could go a while because I thought, I'm hitting that 50 age group. I'm the young one in that deal that I can play in that. So I played that division. And like a dingleberry, there was a guy past me at one point, and I'm sizing people up going, he's in the other age group. Turns out that was the guy that won the age division. I finished second. He got up to get the first place trophy. And I remember when he passed me, and I thought he's a whole lot older than what I give him credit for.
Well, see, yeah, there you go. You ruined my theory about the trophy thing. You wanted the trophy.
I did.
So yeah,
but it's well, that yeah, I did want that trophy because it was.
I get it.
I had some nephews and some daughters in that race that.
Yeah,
I might not have beat him. Well, I did beat my nephew because my youngest one, I got him down the backstretch because I remember telling him, "Not today, Grady." I mean, I poured it on, but Jancy ended up, she finished in front of me, and I got to brag and said, "Well, you might have beat me personally, but I got a trophy to prove that I was pretty solid in my age group."
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I ran last year, the year before, for a mile, talking with a kid. I think it was a year before or whatever. I thought it was Garen Cantrell. I never fully looked over. I was trying to look ahead. I just kind of saw, I knew he's in the race. He was running pretty well, but I don't think they could finish. There's some kind of rule they couldn't. I don't know. But I was having a conversation with this kid for a mile, and I was even calling him Garrett, and he never, Garen, and he never corrected me.
It wasn't him.
It wasn't him. It was another kid. Like, that's terrible.
Oh, the good old 5K.
Yeah, it's like, man, you're running real good today, man. You're going to be ready to rock and roll for, and then turns out he ran for another school close to here.
Well,
yeah, it's embarrassing, but you know what? Can't laugh. It's not.
Yeah.
Got to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're going to shut this thing down. Once again, thank you to everybody that's reached out about this podcast. Had a lot of people that haven't lived in this area, in the South Barber community, and in several years that follow this on YouTube and stuff. And they've expressed that it kind of keeps them in the loop on what's going on around here. And I appreciate you reaching out and letting me know that. If you got any ideas of people that you want us to try to bring on here sometime, just keep in mind they got to agree to come on. But we're open to ideas. Just reach out to me anytime. Thank you again for taking time out of your day, and wish you best the rest of the year and on the future too.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.